Welcome to Restaurant Influencers presented by Entrepreneur. My name is Sean Walchef, founder of Cali BBQ and Cali BBQ Media. In life, in the restaurant business, and in the new creator economy, we learn through lessons and stories. I want to give a special shout out to Toast, our primary technology partner at our barbecue restaurants. They power so many of the restaurants that we have on this show. Thank you for believing in hospitality, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to have badass guests like we have today. Today's guest is Jason Udrea. You can find him at @JUdrea_. You can find his world's sickest pizza joint, Pizza HQ_ on Instagram as well. Jason, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
What's going on, Sean? Awesome to be here, man. Appreciate it.
So, favorite random question: where in the world is your favorite stadium, stage, or venue?
So I'm an East Coast guy. Candidly, I'm not a huge sports fan. So I'm going to go with MSG here. MSG is MSG, right? It's, I've been to a few concerts there growing up and whatnot. And then, you can't go wrong with that answer.
Okay. We're going MSG. We're going to pack it. I'm going to talk to Entrepreneur, talk to Toast. We're going to fill it with people that listen to this show, people from all over the earth that care about hospitality storytelling, people that are creators, not just entrepreneurs, but online storytellers. And I'm going to give you the mic on center court, and I'm going to say, pitch us your crazy idea of building the world's sickest pizza joint. What is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Pizza HQ, the idea of it came from, my partners and I were in the traditional pizza business. My background is food manufacturing, and then joined the restaurant industry. And, we had a traditional pizzeria. We built it up, high volume establishment. We were looking at scaling it to location 2, location 3, so forth and so on. And, with that was, eliminating the bottlenecks, putting systems behind it, really, creating a very lean process and, something that has scalability behind it. Some of the pain points that we had was, very skilled labor, especially with the pizza makers. It comes at a high price point with that labor, but also more so it's just very hard to find. Huge menu we had at the time. We were looking, okay, how do we eliminate some of these things? We brought, we tested a bunch of different equipment for automation, bringing it into the back of house. We slimmed down the menu to just pizza. That's all we do here. We're all about perfecting pizza. And what we did is, we brought this same product that, was loved by the neighborhood. Again, a very high volume establishment. We brought it at almost half the price point, much quicker speed, with a much easier back of house infrastructure and a lot of scalability behind it. So, Pizza HQ, we rely heavily on technology, heavily on back of house, automation and the newest trends in tech to bring, the most efficient, quickest, low cost pizza product that's, still not compromising the quality.
Where you're not pizza robots?
Pizza robots, baby. Yeah. We, I want to say, we're probably, you see it popping up a little bit now in the restaurant industry. I mean, a lot of this stuff on the food manufacturing side has been around in terms of the automation, right? But the restaurant industry, I think it just hit so recently. And we started here last May, so that's May 2022. And at the time, I think we were the only, or if not like one of the very first people bringing this side of technology on the restaurant side to pizza. So it started with again the skill side of pizza is stretching the dough, right? That's the hardest part. There's guys that worked for us that I couldn't sit there and fill their spot on a Friday night. It just is what it is, right? It's acquired skill. It takes years of experience, and it's not something we could train very easily. It's been a problem for us, right? It's very hard to find those guys. If you lose them, you're in a bad spot. So, that's the one thing we wanted to eliminate, and, not to eliminate the job behind that, but to be able to bring anyone into that role and train them on it, right? And be able to do that successfully. So, we tried a lot of different dough presses, right? What we didn't want to do was sacrifice quality, as I mentioned before. There's a lot of presses that you press it down and, it comes as like a frozen pizza or, that type of setting. We really wanted to keep the authenticity of New York style pizza and really mimic the same product that we had at the time. We were very successful with it. We wanted to keep that going. We didn't want to streamline this into, more of a commodity type product. So we tried many different dough presses. We went with Capone pizza press. Has a beveled edge. You have the crust. The plates are heated, and we were able to bring that into the process. And I mean, it fills in one of the hardest rolls to secure. And then, followed by that, the pizza, you can see on our website or Instagram some of the renderings we had, but the pizza, goes down a conveyor, sauce, cheese is applied, toppings, pepperoni sliced fresh, goes on the pie. The user's inputting what type of pizza it is. And then from there, it goes into a conveyor oven. In the conveyor oven, traditional pizza, you have deck ovens, there's hot spots. On a Friday night when a door keeps opening, the temperatures fluctuate, it takes longer to cook. We partnered with Hot Rocks. We actually just installed our 6th oven here at our Woodland Park facility, and we have another 2 on order at a new facility that we're opening up shortly. And it's when you think of conveyor ovens, right? You think of some of the chains that use it where inside it's like a mesh, and it's like kind of like a convection cooked pizza. But Hot Rocks has a pretty unique product in the marketplace where once it gets onto the stone, it's actually cooking on black granite. And that stone follows it through, and it creates like a New York style crust, right? A crust that's authentic to our market here, which consumers expect. One thing that we said from the beginning, right? We're not going to be in business if the pizza's not good. That just is what it is, right? There's a very high expectation of quality and authenticity here. There's many different options, right? It's not like pizza's hard to come by. There's a pizzeria on every corner. We knew we had to put out a good quality product. It took a good amount of time and a lot of playing around with, different equipment vendors to build that back of house infrastructure. But yeah, I mean, jumping back to your original point, pizza robots. I mean, that's the idea behind it. We really wanted, tech driven, but very efficient back of house. And the idea that, like I said, one of our pillars is price. We're able to achieve a very low price point. Our cheese pizza is $10.99 for a large buy in the market here. On a low end, maybe starts at 15, goes up to 19. So it's priced very aggressively, and we're able to achieve that with really just again creating a very efficient product and just focusing solely on pizza.
So currently, you have one shop up and operating, and another shop that is soon to be open.
Yeah, we have this facility here in Woodland Park. This is our first facility. Again, we started, I guess, a little over a year ago, almost a year and a half. We have a second facility down in Roselle, New Jersey, which is, hopefully, the deadlines are always pushed back. But we're hoping like middle of October to really be up running there, starting with 2 ovens, and then we'll ramp up. So that facility is a little larger. It's about 5,000 or 6,000 square feet. It was an old Dunkin' Donuts commissary, so it's pretty interesting. It's like a kind of production facility feel. It's built out, food grade, so it worked for us. And again, the idea is to shift some of the volume down there and just keep doing what we do.
Well, I think, when you and I first connected, we jumped on a call. I don't remember how we found each other, a mutual friend, some connection, but I remember talking to you and knowing that you were thinking about things differently. I mean, you're not even calling them restaurants, they're facilities. And, I was telling you about the barbecue business that we were building, and we were removing seats in our restaurant and adding more smokers. And you were telling me about the automation and trying to, really get more quality pizza at a better price to more people in the local area. And we both connected on that. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the economics behind why you're building this way and how someone that's listening to the show can possibly start to think a little bit differently about their business.
Yeah. The original spot that I was mentioning that, where the idea here started, has a dining room, and majority of the business though is delivery, pickup and delivery.
What's the percentage? 80%, 90%?
Yeah, probably about a little over 80% is pickup and delivery. Honestly, might even be a little higher than that. Once COVID hit, we installed new pizza ovens there, and kind of took a little bit away from the dining room. So that number might have dropped a little bit on the dine-in side. But with dine-in, one of the, like I said, my background is food manufacturing. One of the things I really liked about coming to the restaurant business was being able to interact with the guests. So I do enjoy it. I enjoy the dining aspect of it. Being able to talk to people and sit down at their table and really having that one-on-one interaction. But just, going back to the economic side of it, right? You can only turn over a table within, so much time, right? And, each ticket's your ticket price. Whereas delivery and pickup, I mean, it's as much as your kitchen can handle, you can push out there. And, what we saw is, like I said, we added more pizza ovens there. We enhanced the, back of house infrastructure as much as we can to accommodate more volume. And there became a point where we got tapped out. On a Friday night, we had 4 pizza guys, and I mean, cranking. It's very hard, to keep adding to it. You start to run into mistakes and bottlenecks. But we built this over here. We don't offer any dining. It's just pick up and delivery. And it's a little bit of a different model and a little different, avatar for a customer. But what we want is affordable pizza, right? We bring pizza down to the price we feel it should be. Pizza's probably, I'd say, one of the highest margin items on traditional pizzeria menu. We built our back of house here to really not have those peak pain points on those peak hours. Our back of house here with the 6 ovens, I mean, we can run close to 660. I mean, it's our forecast, right? We'll see next week when we really start pushing it out. But we can run about 660 pies an hour. We do have business also with some we have corporate accounts and some other customers that really enable us to push that kind of throughput out. But on a Friday night, there's never a 2-hour wait or an hour and a half wait for delivery. It's half an hour. We're out at your door. Pickup is always 15 minutes, and it doesn't matter, right? Ticket comes in, dough gets pressed, goes through, and we, within that amount of time, it's at the end of the oven, and our customer's ready to pick it up. So, that was something that was very, we relied on heavily when building this model is, being able to, again, on a Friday night, have a pizza in half an hour over here. It's hard to get, let alone being able to have 5 pizzas or 8 pizzas, within that time and being able to accommodate the customer like that. Back to the economics, like I said, we took dining out of the equation. We just offer pickup and delivery. And, with being able to just have this kind of back of house infrastructure, it enables better economics, right? Labor is reduced. There's less bottlenecks in the process. And we're able to, again, just do what we do best, is just make pizza, make it as efficient and cost effective as possible.
How do you get corporate accounts?
So my partner handles that side of the business, sales. He's a beast. But up until now, it's been a lot of just cold calling and, being able to fulfill a need that seemed to be there in a marketplace. We have a few different types of corporate accounts. One of them is, which is probably the most dominant one, is schools. We're able to accommodate, like I said, just from our throughput standpoint, schools during lunch. Here in New Jersey, schools do pizza once a week. It's pretty standard. Some schools do offer it every day. And all those pies are going in within a period of 2 hours or whatever it may be, between the different lunch times. So the market was very segmented when we came in. We saw a big opportunity there. That's actually one of the points that segued us into all right, how do we really produce a lot of volume within a certain amount of time, right? And really build out these ovens and whatnot. Right now, they'll go to different pizzerias. There's towns that there's this one town we just picked up a contract with, but they ordered from Domino's because Domino's is the only one that could fulfill that many pizzas. And the Domino's that could do it was a few towns over, in different territories, and they couldn't deliver because of the franchising, borders and whatnot. And, the school would actually go and pick up the pizza. So, what we saw is the market's very segmented. Schools are really struggling with pizzerias being able to do it on time, right? That's a critical component to pizza lunch. It has to be there on time. Slices cut evenly. So we started seeing some of these opportunities and tackling that market. And between word of mouth, that part of the business has really grown very, very quickly. And then corporate accounts, right, like trampoline parks, birthday party venues, car dealerships that order regularly. These are our target customers all weekend long. We're going to these places and bringing pizza. That part of the business is, like I said, grown. It's been very nice for us. And then the other side is the retail customer, right? I know that comes from marketing and, social media. And I mean, you know well yourself, the different channels to bring that kind of type of guest in.
Tell me about social media.
Social media. So when we first started this, and I'm going to say started a business, when we were putting together the business plan, right? Like we had, these 3 revenue streams. We had the schools, we had the B2B, we sold the wholesale accounts. And then, we had the direct to consumer, right? And we, had this picture of like, okay, they're all going to grow in unison, like equally and whatnot. When we started, we really saw like just from, again, the opportunity I said with the schools, like that market has grown so quick, and we kind of really had to put our attention there. And like, we started last May with 200 pies, week over week on all our business. And, we're projecting like next week, we should be somewhere around 7,000. So like the business has grown dramatically.
From 200 pies to 7,000?
7,000. Yeah. And
7,000 pies a week?
7,000 pies a week. Yeah.
Come on. You have enough robots for that? No wonder you're opening up more facilities.
Yeah, we just purchased a lot more equipment, within the past few months, stacking different machines together for, we have some stuff for like higher throughput, sauce cheesers and all that. But it's a pretty cool operation. We'll see if we have enough. We're we just keep adding on to it. But yeah, so we'll be doing 7,000. And I forgot actually what the original where we were
tell
going
me about
with
the
this.
7,000. These are all Hot Rocks pizza ovens, or is it a combination of other pieces of equipment? Because like that's a huge contract with a brand. I mean, that's a lot of trust. We use Old Hickory pits for our barbecue, and we went from 1 pit to 2 pits, and now we have 4 pits. I wish we were doing 7,000 racks of ribs a week.
Yeah, hey. We're pretty closer to the Hot Rocks team. I mean, they've been good to us. We've started with our first oven in May, and like I said, we just got 4, 5, and 6 installed. It was just last week. So, so far so good. We like them. We plan on growing with them. But yeah, and to jump back to your original question, I remember with social media. So the wholesale side of the business grew very fast, and we didn't get a lot of time to really spend on the retail consumer. So just now with summer slowing down some of the school business, and have a little more time on our hands. We've partnered with Targetable. We use them for our social, our organic social, as well as paid ads, and we've just been starting to ramp up that past few months. So it's going well.
Do they do creative for also?
Yeah, they do creative. It's funny, all these things, I'm a very hands-on person, right? I like doing stuff myself. I have Photoshop, I have all these apps. I'm not like an expert in any of them, but I enjoy it. And, I always just get caught up in it. I'm like, all right, this, what I'm taking 2 hours for, these guys can do in 10 minutes. So we all for it. Yeah, they do all our creative, or most of it. We have photographers coming in, at least just give them some of the content to work with. But they do our creative, they do our posting. It's been going well. That's a part of the business. We've started like a few times, like we'll go hard with, like, all right, let's get good on Instagram. Let's do reels once a week, right? It's cool. Like, they start trending, you watch how many viewers you have. But it's something you really just have to stay consistent with. And, there's so many moving parts. So it's tough. So it's working well. I like just having them, it's consistent 3 times a week. They're posting, we don't have to worry about it. And then, if there's something cool in the middle of it, we'll post ourselves. But, at least we have a consistent, voice on our organic channels.
Huge news. Toast, our primary technology partner at our barbecue restaurants in San Diego, and the primary technology partner of so many of the guests that we have on this show, have announced they are expanding their business offerings with Google. So now if you search on Google Maps and you sign up for Toast Tables or Toast Waitlist, you will have the opportunity to improve the digital hospitality experience of the guest, allow them to book through the maps into the Toast reservation system. One of the biggest difficulties that restaurant guests have is when they search for your restaurant and they want a table, they do not have an easy solution to book a table or to get on a wait list. This is huge news for the restaurant industry, huge news for guests, and huge news for you, the restaurant owner. Check out Toast Tables today and find out the new integrated solution that they have. This is something that we've wanted for a long time. How do you integrate reservations, wait lists into your point of sale. Toast has done it. Check it out. Have you gotten any pushback from the other
Yeah,
pizza shop owners?
so pizza shop owners, not too much. Nah, I can think of maybe one or two very small examples, but pushback, we've got a lot from the consumers. So when we
Really?
first opened up, our thing was, automation, right? I mean, I think it's like the coolest thing in the world. My partners, think so as well. And when we first opened up, we put on our windows this big vinyl rendering of like, what we're gonna have, and they always bring robots and everything. We've got a lot of interest from press. We're on, all like the mainstream media channels, NorthJersey.com, a bunch of newspapers and online presence. And like initially there was just huge pushback. Like we were like taken back. It's like people just hated it, they wanted what I think we failed to do a little bit in the beginning, a little bit of a learning lesson is I don't think we pushed out really the authenticity and like the quality, right? We just went out on this like automation. Like, I mean, you remember when Easy Pass first came out, like nobody went in those toll lanes, right? Everyone boycotted it. They didn't want it. And, now you can't live without it.
Are you talking about the toll booth operator?
The toll booth. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, people want it.
I don't know if they're called Easy Pass nationally, but yeah. Nobody wanted to go through those, the lanes with the tag, right? Everyone wanted, boycotted it. So, same thing like Amazon, right? There's a lot of pushback on Amazon. There still is, came about. People will adopt it. It'll take time, but, we went with this like very strong, foot forward on automation. And what we saw, especially just being in the New York market, people didn't see like the authenticity behind it, right? They weren't aligned with it. So we, a lot of like comments like, no, thank you, get this out of here. They're going to fail. I have so many of them saved. I just print out. I just can't wait one day to like, make a cool post about it in like 5 years. Like, like those stories when you first start up and,
that's why we document. That's why we document everything.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's motivation for sure. But, what we failed to do obviously as a brand was really push out there. Like, hey, this is a quality product at a lower price point. And it's, it's made differently, but it's made with the consumer in mind, right? Like, the automation that we have is, of course, listen, there's business advantages to it, right? We bring it out for that, but there's also consumer advantage, right? You get a consistent product every time, right? It's not going to be extra cheese one time and light cheese another time. It's going to be the same amount of cheese, right? Because the machines are much more consistent than a hand operator. We're able to deliver a better product. We're able to deliver way faster. We're able to deliver at a lower price point, and it's still that quality product. I always give this example, right? I have a cousin in Canada, and the first time he came down, I talk to him all the time, and we talked about the business and whatnot. But the first time he came down, he tried it, like, wow, this is actually really good. Which like it just shows like the initial perception is it may not be, or it's just going to be like a manufactured product. So that was like an obstacle that we had to overcome. And like when I tell you like pushback, like, man, you go on some of these, you can still look at it. Some of the initial press releases, the comments are like terrible. But we've really changed the brand voice a little bit. We worked with Targetable on that. Like, all right, let's hold back. I'm not saying to hide behind the automation. That's what
you
we
worked
do,
with
right?
Targetable on that? Yep.
Yeah, but let's really push quality, right? Let's really push some of the other pillars of our brand that are important that we want the consumers to see. And the automation is just how we do it, right? That's not who we are. We aren't just this automated brand. And at the end of the day, like the consumers don't care as much about that as they care about getting delicious pizza. But yeah, fast forward like a year and a half, like word of mouth spreads. Like people come here, they love it. They we get good reviews online, and people in like the Facebook groups and we do tons of events with the community. I'm sure too, like how important that is. And word of mouth gets out, and they see we're not just these like robots that are like running this company, right? We're like very involved with the community. We got families, we got kids. Like we love our customers, and we just took a different approach to doing things. So yeah, a lot of pushback. It was interesting. There was definitely the first few times we're like, oof, a little okay, are we sure we want to do this? This is like a little crazy. Like I feel like everyone's opposing you, but it's cool to have like gotten through that, or at least like getting through that, and being able to there's a lot of people that like stick up for us and like, no, you guys got to try it though, it's really good. Like the owners are super friendly, and we got that image out there.
So one of the coolest things about for me for doing this show is it allows me to connect with people like you, people all over the globe that are running these incredible hospitality businesses. It also allows us to connect with hospitality technology companies that help restaurant operators like yourself and myself. You shared a story with me that I was hoping you could share with the audience, but anything that you've implemented recently that's been game changing that doesn't have to do with pizza, but has to do with the business of pizza?
Yeah. So, we talked about the back of house tech and automation. But, there's the above store, there's the front of house technology. And, we are committed to being like a tech forward brand, right? We believe that helps us and enables us to, do what we're doing. And, our slogan is like the future of pizza, right? And I think that fits appropriately. Yeah, the story you're mentioning, I've seen, you post a few times about Davo. Am I pronouncing that right? Davo?
Yeah, it's Davo. Yeah.
So Davo, I remember the first time you posted it, I was like, it's interesting. Like, what's the point of that, right?
Sales
so,
tax automation.
Background.
What is that?
Just to give a background for the listeners that haven't heard of it, Davo is exactly like you said, sales tax automation, right? Files it for you. And, whatever. I didn't think much of it, but, a funny story. I mentioned we started last May. We actually just got some financing from like a New Jersey nonprofit organization. We needed sales tax clearance. So I'm going through it. I'm like, oh shoot, we haven't filed for like last 3 quarters our sales tax. And like I said, a lot of our business is tax exempt and stuff like that. So, whatever. I figured, you file when for the tax season and it's fine. But I realized there's some fees and interest that come along with that. And I mean, I was like, wow, this is terrible. Just going through the numbers and trying to figure out where everything is. So I remember, you mentioned, I looked into it and I was like, I couldn't really figure out how it would work. Cause how are they going to file it for me?
Yeah.
And, because you have to put in your taxable income, non-taxable income. But, lo and behold, we signed up. It was super, super simple process. It took like 5 minutes and, so quick that I was a little skeptical. Like, am I onboarded already or is there more to this? Man, every day they take out a little bit of money out of our bank for the sales tax. Like that's the one thing I look at the bank every morning and I smile. That's the only debit that comes out of there. I'm like, this is great. That's one less thing to worry about.
One less thing. They're doing their job.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, no, they're kudos to them, man. It's such a great idea. I think it's like $50 a month.
Yeah.
It's you can't go wrong there. But yeah, just on the other side, right? I know we're both mutual users of Ovation. Zach and the team there, they're awesome. Love Ovation. While we're on the subject of tech, right? They released their call to text. I believe that's the term for it. But for those listening, like someone calls in, right? The store right now, thank you for calling Pizza Choose. Jay, I'm gonna help you. Where Ovation has this feature now where you call in, like to place an order, press 1. You press 1, and you get a text message with the online ordering link. I've probably for like the past 4 weeks, I talked to Derek like a month ago and I've just been back and forth and Rev, I talked to him about it. I've been picking everyone's brain. I'm like, do we do this? Like, I don't want to disappoint the consumer. I feel like pizza is a little bit of a different industry than, like a Chipotle, right? Everyone knows you have to order online Chipotle or you go there and it's ready in like 5 minutes. We're a little bit longer of a ticket time. We're about 10 to 12 minutes. So and people are accustomed to calling in their, Friday night dinner at the pizzeria. Finally, I just, I pushed over the edge like the last few days just talking to people and not. So we're onboarding that, but things like that, right? It's important to, at the end of the day, look, we're in the hospitality industry and it's important to make sure that, while all this new tech is coming out and evolving that, we do think of the consumers first, right? And how they, the consumer experience, right? That's the most important part, before like the efficiency and how it helps the operation. But, there's a lot of cool new software, a lot of cool new platforms coming along. Ovation's an awesome one just with guest reviews and, being able to hear the voice of the customer, right? There's customers that leave a 4-star that, just say, hey, maybe something was wrong and maybe it happened like 3 or 4 times. They give us like a 4-star, but they would never go and review it online. It's just not important enough, but that helps us know, hey, there's a kink in our process. We've been forgetting something. We're able to hear that voice of the customer. And, it's more and more important, especially as you go more digital and have online ordering and, there's less interaction with the guests to be able to, really get a feel for their pulse and, their level of satisfaction with you, your brand, and whatnot.
Can you share some advice with any new dads or new moms that are in the hospitality business and how to balance our crazy lives with our family life?
Let's put it this way: if your spouse isn't supportive, just don't do it. No, I'm super fortunate. My wife is awesome. She gets it. She's a hustler herself. She's in sales, but look, there's a lot of hours. There's a lot of demand, right? The thing about the hospitality business is, your peak points are Friday nights and weekends, and times where everyone else is off and spending time with families. Advice I can give, and I've played both sides of the spectrum here and realized that one's way better than the other. Is, you just have to create that balance, right? You have to time block. You have to create that balance. It is so easy and inevitable if you don't control it for your whole day to get taken and just, I can sit here and spend 15 hours for the next 20 days. I just won't catch up on everything, right? It's about prioritizing, just keeping a calendar and just blocking that time out for family, blocking the personal time out, hiring help as needed, right? It's you fill in the positions, right? You save on your margin, obviously, but it's just not worth it. If you don't have that work-life balance, it's what are you doing for it, right?
What's the big goal for Pizza HQ? If we look back on this interview 5 years from now, what will you guys have built?
Take over the world, baby. We plan on keep growing. We're at a rapid rate right now. Tons of pivots. Even just looking over the last year of the direction. But we are, really just trying to be the pioneers in the future of pizza. We're constantly testing out new equipment vendors, new, back of house technologies, new front of house technologies. One thing that's like unison with my partners, is like, we're down to try anything, right? When you're a pioneer in the industry, there's going to be like a lot of, trouble with it, right? There's things break, right? When you're first to use it, you got to deal with those kind of things. But, if you're down with that and, you have that tolerance level and, there's a great upside, right? Being like the first to market with a lot of these cool new technologies. So yeah, 5-year plan, we're continuing our growth trajectory. We really want to take over on, the local market with, a cost effective, authentic New York style pizza. We're not trying to be the next Domino's. We're not like a local mom and pop pizzeria, right? We're right in the middle of the road. We want the authentic product that the customers want, and create it with like all the corporate appeals of speed, efficiency, and low cost. But yeah, over the next 5 years, man, we hope to just take over like the market in northern half of New Jersey, at least.
So I have a challenge for you. Is it possible for you and your partners to start documenting this testing that you're doing with these vendor partnerships? I know it's not B2C content, but the B2B content is a huge opportunity, especially when you're a disruptor in the space.
Yeah, definitely. We had a consultant early on, Ryan Graufen, great guy. He told us, like, before we even started it, document everything, take pictures. Like, you're going to look back and like, it's cool just to have that journey. And, we did it a few times that we lose track of it, but no, I do think it's super important. I accept the challenge.
You accept the challenge. Well, anybody that's listening to the show, the reason we put on this show is to meet with people like you that are playing the game within the game. You're disrupting the pizza space. You're teaching restaurant owners, food manufacturers that we're all playing the same game. We're all trying to build sustainable, profitable businesses that allow us to spend time. I know you have girls. I want to spend time with my kids. I want to do things like this. It's Labor Day for me, but there's nothing I'd rather do than sit here and have a conversation like this, where you and we get to, hopefully help one restaurateur out there that, starts to look at their business a little bit differently. Can you tell me a little bit about the delivery side of the business? You have your own pizza drivers, or are you using third-party deliveries? How do you guys manage that?
A little bit of both. We do have our own delivery drivers. We flirted with the idea of really outsourcing everything to third-party deliveries. But the thing is, we do utilize that labor also while they're inside to make boxes and, help with other stuff. So we have a pretty lean team on the delivery side. We do use some contract drivers, or a lot of contract drivers, I guess, to fulfill like, some of the schoolers or just like single runs. But, I've been the past month or two, been seeking out and, talking to some other players that are, in a third-party delivery space is, develop a partnership. I think as we grow, that becomes a bigger and bigger challenge is, being able to source delivery drivers, especially within like a small, you only need them for a few hours a day, or, you're not offering like a full-time position. So it'd be nice to, be able to leverage someone else's platform that, has other volume that, then we can kind of fill in gaps, with drivers for them. So, we do when we run short on drivers, we use ShipPay for our delivery. platform, and right through there it's pretty seamless. You call Uber Eats, call DoorDash driver, you can see how long till they come, the exact cost of the service. Very simple. So we do that sometimes during peak times. We run out of drivers, and then as of right now, we have our own small fleet as well.
It's awesome. So every single week on Wednesday and Friday on the social audio app Clubhouse, you, the listener, you can join us 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's Wednesday, Friday. It's a chance for you to be on a live show, us to hear your story about your restaurant. If you're a food creator, if you're in sales, marketing, technology, we have digital hospitality leaders from all over the globe, but we also do a social shout out. This week, social shout out. Usually I pick someone, but I'm not going to pick anyone because I hope it's you, the listener. If you have a Toast story, if you just onboarded Toast, if you use Toast in your restaurant, then send me a message on Instagram at Shawn P. Walchef, ShawnPwalchef. I want to hear some Toast stories, some Toast unboxings, and you could possibly make it onto this show or our other show, Digital Hospitality. We'd love to hear from you, the listener. Jason, can you give me a social shout out? One person on your team that you want to give some love on Entrepreneur?
On my team?
One person.
I'm gonna give a shout out over here to our first employee, and he's our right hand in the back of the house. His name is Gabe. He came in day one. We underestimated completely, what it was going to be like. We didn't have the right equipment, and at the end of the production run, right, there was pieces on the floor. We didn't have a docker. There's bubbles coming out of them. But he came in the first day, and was looking for a job and started there, and helped us start with cleaning out the kitchen. But he's been here from the beginning, and he's a team hustler. So definitely give him a shout out.
I love it. So we believe in smartphone storytelling. This is a chance for us to get a little bit deeper inside of Jason's smartphone usage. I want to know, are you an iPhone or an Android user? iPhone. What version?
iPhone 10.
iPhone 10. Do you believe, do you prefer text or emails or phone calls? Text. How many emails do you get a day? 50. How many do you enjoy reading?
I have two inboxes. Through the primary inbox, not the junk one, about 50. How many I enjoy reading? About like 4.
What's your favorite social media app?
Instagram.
Are you a cord cutter, or do you still watch DirecTV?
Not much of a TV guy, but when I do, it's through the apps.
It's through the apps. Got it. What's your least favorite app?
Least favorite app? That's a good one. That's the ones that just keep giving notifications that
Which ones annoy you the most?
I'm gonna go with Mail. So I have two inboxes. I have Gmail and Mail. Mail is like the
catch-all,
the junks and the sign up. So yeah, that one's it's terrible.
What's your favorite app for your store?
Pizza HQ app.
Yeah. Who builds the Pizza HQ app?
It's through Incentivio.
Perfect.
They have our app, our loyalty. Good.
Why do you like them?
So we originally chose them because of some of the functionalities behind it, the seamless integration with Toast, and they have a pretty cool, robust loyalty program for early stage, right? There's bigger companies that come at a higher price point that have a lot more bells and whistles, but I think if you download our app and look at it, it looks professional. There's a lot of creativity that we can still put to play on our side, and it works, right? Simple to use, works well, integrates right into Toast. I love it.
Why did you guys pick Toast?
So at the other location I was mentioning earlier, we did not have Toast. We used Hunger Rush. Great system it used to be Revention. Great system for pizza. Great delivery, platform on there, but very closed. So you had to use their app. It wasn't the best app. It worked. We got a lot of customer complaints actually with, it's difficult to use or things of that nature, et cetera, et cetera. Pick Toast. When we were looking over here, we were vetting a few different ones. Pick Toast just because of the, open functionalities with it. One, it's best in class. It's called what it is, right? between the menu and the back end. It's super simple to use. But the most appealing thing about Toast was, right, like, if you don't like the delivery, that's fine. Bring in your own, right? We use ShipDay for delivery. I prefer it over the Toast delivery platform. And it's literally a click of a button and entering a code, and it integrates with Toast, no problem. So now, you can't expect one service to be the best at everything. So, the little pieces, like for instance, Toast online ordering is awesome. Toast takeout and whatnot, but we do use Incentivio. I think it's, those guys just focus on the app. They just focus or they just focus on loyalty, right? Whereas Toast is, the central brain, but we chose Toast because of the ability to connect all these different tech partners super easy and, super effectively.
If someone's listening to this and they're dreaming about getting into the pizza business, what is your advice for them?
Do it now.
Just do it.
It's fun. It's fun.
Go raise a bunch of money and go open up a shop.
Yeah. Don't do it with automation. Stay out of Jersey. No, it's super fun, super rewarding. So my background's food manufacturing. I've been in so many different industries, from meat and poultry to candy to bread. The thing about pizza that's just fascinating to me is, like, it's an art, right? It's part of our mission statement. Is like, we're obsessed with the art of making pizza. The dough, the complexity with the dough, from the, your hydration levels to, your fermentation period to, the 30 different types of flours, probably way more different types of flours you can put in it. There's so many variables that, it's an art, right? And, you get obsessed with it and you want to just tweak it more and more every day. So it's fun. It's super rewarding. There's no two people out here that have the same pizza, right? There's something different. But listen, it takes dedication, right? There's like we talked about, the weekend and nights, as anyone else in the hospitality business, deals with. But
that's awesome, man. Well,
chase your dreams. If you're into it, chase your dreams.
Chase the dream. If you guys want to follow them, where's the best place for people to follow along the journey, support you guys?
Definitely Instagram, or go on our website. It's pizza-hq.com and do our email sign up. We post at least once a week. You should have an email blast for people to follow. But yeah, Instagram and over there.
And when are you guys getting on TikTok? See, I keep giving you homework assignments. You like that? Month. You like coming? Coming on this show?
Yeah, another challenge. No, we have a TikTok.
Giving me homework assignments.
We signed up for it when we started, and we're trying to break in and find the password. We might have to get a new channel. We have one post on there. Between me and my partner, we can't find out who actually signed up. We're trying to email to reset the password, but
that's fantastic.
We'll be on TikTok.
That's hilarious.
Prioritize that one too.
No, you're all good, man. We appreciate it. If you guys want to connect with me, it's at Shawn P. Walchef, ShawnPWalchef. Easiest way is on Instagram. Send me a message. Ask us any question you'd like answered on the show, or just connect with us. Come up on Clubhouse every Wednesday, every Friday. It's a chance for you to tell your story. No one's coming to tell your story. Use that smartphone in your pocket. And if you're in Jersey, or even if you're not, no matter where you are, check out Pizza HQ and support these guys. They're building something special, and we're excited that we had you on so early on in the journey. Can't wait to see what you guys build next.
Yeah, appreciate it, Shawn. Pleasure to come on. You had some pretty impressive guests, so it's a pleasure to sit here with you.
Yeah, you got it, man. Appreciate you. The best way that you can help us with the show is to subscribe and write a review. We love the opportunity to connect with you, no matter where you are on the globe, no matter what restaurant you are running. Please send us a DM on social at Shawn P. Walchef. If you are interested in Toast, if you want to improve your digital hospitality, please send me a DM. I will get you in touch with a local Toast representative. We appreciate you listening to this show. The best way that you can help the show is share it with a friend, and we will catch you all next week, or we will see you on one of the digital playgrounds that we call social media.